Welcome back to the Vera House podcast. We've got a really fun one for you today. It's our après ski vibe because as of the recording of this episode, there's still like 2.5 inches of ice outside. So we definitely saw some crazy stuff going on this week. One of my friends went urban ice skating on the streets in Churchill. We talked about the history of the term RVA and where it came from and where it started. And we talked about, what else we talked about?
Well, we talked about, ice shenanigans in the crazy snowstorm. Talked about a huge skate park shaped like a wiener.
Yes, the Wiener Park.
So that's cool. Or not cool, I don't know. And we talked about the history of punks in general, but also here in RVA. And we had a blast.
I almost slipped getting in the car, like multiple times. And you know, it didn't feel like, oh yeah, there's ice on the ground. It made me feel like I was 80 and I couldn't handle getting in the car anymore.
Yeah.
It's wild.
There's
just like regular everyday stuff.
It's very slippery though. Like it's more slippery than usual.
Yes.
I had this intrusive thought when I drove by the baseball field right here.
Yeah.
Because I saw this big notice from the city that said, don't skate at Fountain Lake and Bird Park and all of that. And I'm like, what? Like,
you gotta break out the skates.
Well, and part of me thought like, respectfully, that's not up to you. You know, it's like, I mean, I guess it is because it's the city park. But in my mind, I'm like, well, that's not up to you. If somebody, it's water. If someone wants to go skate and take that risk, like that's their decision.
Yeah.
But I have the hack. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I drove by the baseball field right here. I think it's called Parker Field with the little baseball fields.
Yeah. But like right by the tennis courts.
Yes. Right here. They are untouched and it's literally like an ice rink. It's like an ice skating rink.
That's a good call.
And I saw it and I was looking at it out the window of my truck. You could skate on that for real. And I've got half a mind to give it a shot.
Dude, I'm down. I don't have any skates, but I'll borrow them from Connects. They have skates.
True. Yeah.
And then we'll just go ice skating on the baseball ring.
I'm actually down.
Yes.
Totally down.
So down. Man, I saw some people in Maymont Park, Bird Park, wherever the Vita course is. Is that Bird Park?
It's technically neither. I mean, it's in between both, right? But yeah, I guess it is kind of in a way part of Bird Park. But yeah, it's the exercise trail right by the Caroline.
Yeah. So obviously most places that are like fields have all this ice on it because nobody's going into the field. And it's all frozen now. It's all shiny and smooth and slick. And I saw these guys, I thought they were kids at first. I'm driving back from the Nickel Bridge to this part of town. And I see these kids like hauling it on a sled in the middle of the day, just like easily doing 20 miles an hour on a sled because it's a big rolling slope and it's all ice. It's not like sledding when you had the snow on the ground. They're just like, you ever seen Family Vacation? Don't answer that because I know you haven't.
Is that the Lampoon one?
National Lampoon's Family Christmas Vacation. And there's a scene in there. I think we actually caught the scene while we're having dinner at Harry's one night.
Yeah, or like Zorch or something.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think his name is Hank or Frank Griswold gets it looks like a cooking dish, like a big silver dish sled that I think a lot of people still use. And his neighbors, like goofy, nutty neighbors, sprays the bottom of it with Crisco. And like, it's so funny. He sets the sled slowly down on the ice. He like gingerly gets in it. And as soon as he sets his butt down, it's like, and it's just a trail of fire. And that's what these kids reminded me of. I was like, that's how you do it.
You'll be pumped because I do remember that. I do remember that scene. And I feel like that's one of those movies where even if you've never seen it, you've seen it.
You know
it's like you've at least caught it in bits and pieces in different places.
Yeah.
But especially that like this side of town, there's lots of good hills and stuff. That's definitely one of them. Over in City Stadium, I've seen the same thing. And it's kind of perfect timing, right? Because everything's kind of glazed over.
Yeah.
So it's not like snow. There's no friction. So if you're on a hill, you are flying, dude.
Booking it. And man, I saw on Reddit earlier, some people taking advantage of like the streets, the many, like numerous streets that are still completely glossed over with ice. that haven't been plowed, that have never been salted. There was a clip on Reddit of somebody filming from their apartment down on like Canal Street, down in the bottom. And it's just 3 people doing donuts in their cars in the middle of the street, like in the intersection. Just no traffic because nobody's down there. They're just like burning out donuts on the snow.
Yeah.
That's my kind of fun.
It's the way to go, man. You know, you're either the person who's like been inside for the past 8 days and done nothing, or you've kind of ventured out and you're like, all right, how do I make a mess of the mess?
Yeah.
You know, as you know, was that yesterday, right? You see when people get out and then they're like a fish out of water, right? So for anyone listening, there was a kind gentleman who decided to drive his 2-wheel drive pickup truck out into the snow.
Yep.
Got stuck on Colonial Street. I don't know what he would have done if somebody didn't help him.
And nobody was helping him. There were 2 or 3 cars in the oncoming traffic lane on Colonial just sitting there. They were behind like an Amazon delivery truck.
Yeah.
And this guy is perpendicular in the middle of that intersection, just spinning the wheel.
Yep.
And if you and I hadn't turned the corner and like hopped out to see what he was doing, he probably would have just kept going. Like nobody was trying to help him.
Yeah. And luckily I got these things.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got the little slip-on track booties.
Yeah. And if I didn't have those, man, I would not have the grip to even push that truck at all.
Yeah.
And it took forever, right? But yeah, pushed him down the street. So there's people doing that. You know, I take my truck and I'm like, this is fun. Like it's fun, you know, because you're like, all right, for the most part, I'm probably not going to get stuck. But yeah, if you're in the wrong vehicle or you got the wrong tires or you got the wrong footwear, it's like, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I could just get stuck on the sidewalk and die.
It's really like that.
Yeah.
And the sidewalks, man, the sidewalks. I know we bash on the city a little bit, but they really dropped the ball. They really dropped the ball. I saw the day before it started to snow, I saw city trucks salting the road.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That morning, like the morning before all the snow and whatnot came. By noon, all the salt was gone.
Yeah.
Because people had been driving on the roads. And then the only places that ended up being clear and are still clear now were the places that the businesses or homes that decided to salt themselves because the city didn't do that either. What's going on? There's like dozens of plow trucks and salt trucks. If you go out to like, I think it's Chamberlain Avenue or when it turns into Brook Road, there's a giant salt sand depot with literally a mountain of salt and trucks ready to deliver it. Where does it go?
Yeah.
It didn't come here.
Yeah. One of the storage facilities where they keep a lot of those trucks and stuff is right near my neighborhood. And it's nice because when it does snow and stuff, my street is one of the ones that gets cleared like pretty well, like early on. But the way I think about it is, Richmond is very much still auditioning to be a big city. Like
it really is,
you know,
man.
And this is their audition. And like, yeah, you didn't get the golden buzzer. You didn't make it to the next round. But you know, try again next year. Show up for tryouts and see how it goes.
You know what I think is happening too is you get people that are coming in town from out of like other cities, other big cities, DC, Northern Virginia, New York, wherever, and they're settling down here because they heard how cool it was, or they visit it and they know how cool it can be, and they get here and it's amateur league. They're like, why is the basic stuff not done?
Yeah.
It's because the city has been okay with just what we like to call the 80% problem for decades. And now that there are more people and there's more demand, they're not even ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It is getting there. You know, I mean, I think it goes back to what we were just talking about, which is when you're prepared, this stuff doesn't affect you as much. When you're the type of person that you have snow shovels and snow plows and you have your own salt at your house and you have all that stuff, it's like, all right, cool. I can get in and out of my car. I can get around. I can do what I need to do. But yeah, then when it comes to like public infrastructure and people like being able to get around and stuff, and a good example is just right here in Carytown, right? Carytown could be mostly up and running right now.
Right.
But it just isn't.
It could have been days ago.
Yeah, like the streets are fine, but people are using them for running because there's nowhere else to run. There's nowhere else to work out. So they just have to pick the main streets that you can actually run on because there's no ice. Mm-hmm. So yeah, then people just are, you know, it's like everything is happening on Cary Street. It's like, oh, here's the only exposed pavement that I can actually like walk or run or drive on.
Yeah, man. it's interesting, we can, obviously it's easier for us to sit here and say, well, the city could have did this and they could have tried better. Yes, mostly true. And I'll always like to see both sides of what's going on. Sure, there's probably a reason why they didn't plow the street, any of the side streets. They seemingly only plowed Broad Street, Carey Street, and Monument. And I don't understand what happened in between. But
well, you got all that government engineered snow, so it's not even ice. It's like concrete,
Did you see the clip that is going around of this guy holding a flame to a piece of the ice?
Yeah.
It's like, if the clip that I saw was the caption was like, "This is why I love science."
Mm-hmm.
And the clip starts off with the guy holding a flame to a piece of ice. Is like, forgive the accent, but he's like, "Look at this ice here, y'all. This a flame holding on to ice, and it's not even melting. This is a chemtrail ice. I tell you, just look at that. It's just not even, I got a whole flame on it and it's not." And then it cuts to somebody who like is a scientist and they're like, "This is why I love science." And they explain thermodynamics and why snow is a good insulator and why Inuit communities have built igloos out of just snow, because it's a natural conductor or reduces the conduction of heat through it, which means it retains the heat, operating in the same way that a down coat works. The heat doesn't go through the down. It keeps it in and not from coming, or like not the cold, not from coming in, keeps the heat from going out.
Yeah.
And I love stuff. I love when the internet claps back a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's like, we're in the South, so we don't always get snow or ice like this.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, if you lived in New York or something, or anywhere up north, you'd realize that those videos go around every winter, and it's like the same thing. And I have a grudge against those people, because it's like, as somebody who's very anti-mainstream everything, good old Bill makes me look bad,
I know. I thought about you when I saw this video. I almost sent it to you, and then I watched this person explain it to everybody like they're an idiot. I was like, yeah.
Well, it's a bummer because like, okay, look, there were definitely like planes spraying the sky, all kinds of crazy stuff before this storm. That is a fact. Like, that's definitely going on. But then you have that on the other side of it, and it kind of like dismisses all this other stuff. And then it's like, oh no, these people are just crazy.
Yes.
And it's like, well, no, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And good old, Georgia Bill just ruined ruined the conspiracy train.
And I guess if I'm going to occupy the mind of a conspiracy theorist, isn't that the plan? To confuse?
Oh, totally.
So nobody knows where the answer lies.
100%.
Carolina Bill could be right. And then,
I like that. Carolina Bill is way better.
Carolina Bill could be, bang on the money, but we don't want him telling everybody what the government's doing. So we get, anonymous scientists with degrees from wherever university saying, yeah, but this is actually how you do it. And we'll make a whole video of making him look like an idiot.
Always. Yeah. 100%.
Look it up.
Yeah, literally. I mean, if you look up any of this stuff, you'll find what you're looking for the most part, whether it's good or bad. It's like if we're looking for something to validate our opinion, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way to prove our opinion, It's like, it's the internet. Part. You can find anything.
That's the funny part. I think this is why we make a good team, but also why we have interesting conversations, because I think deep down we have opposing outlooks and opinions on certain things that we both share. We both deal with and engage with, but I think we're both willing to listen to the other side.
Totally.
But also we'll do whatever we need to prove our side as the right side.
Yeah. Well, I think if I don't want to even just speak for us. I think like everyone should hopefully be able to like zoom out and acknowledge that we don't know what we don't know. And to ever think that we just know something as like absolute fact or truth 9 out of 10 times is kind of crazy, I think we are empowered by technology and we have a lot of information at our fingertips, and it creates a lot of confusion. And the truth is like, dude, we don't know what's going on. We've got some basic fundamental truths that we can pretty much count on. The rest of it is like, there's so many of us and there's so many opinions. There's so many different ways to live life. There's so many different, the world is a big place. and there's a lot of different ideas floating around on this little marble. And to think that one of us or a group of us knows what's right over some other group is kind of crazy. What's right for me might not be right for you, and vice versa. What makes sense to me might not make sense to somebody else, and vice versa. But in my world, it's true, and in theirs, their opinion is true. And it's like, and they both can meet and get along fine. Sometimes, if you want that to be the outcome. And I do think that's why we get along, because like that's the outcome we want, right? Like I don't personally want to spend energy. I don't understand the point of spending energy of being like, that's wrong. It's like, if someone else thinks something differently, I live by the thumbs up rule, right? People are
cool.
Like, cool.
Good job, bud.
I just hit everybody with the thumbs up. And I'm like, I love that for you. And I love this for me.
And oh man, the smart people, the intelligent people that like an argument, and that's the other side of this. People that are dead set on making their case, sharing the information, studying so that they have facts that they can pull on when they are engaged in a conversation or a discussion or an argument, like we call it, dunk on other people. I hate it when you completely reject the idea of a conversation in the first place.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, so I don't have an opportunity to tell you what I think? No, I don't care. Happy. Good. You're right. Whatever you were going to say, good for you.
That is a good point. Yeah. Like, and in some ways, I think that's how a lot of people get their validation in some ways, is like, that's, what makes them feel confident, or what helps them remind themselves that, I don't know, that their contribution means something, or whatever. Personally, I just don't find a lot of like fulfillment in it. Like everybody's different. I don't really need to be right. That's just my own approach. I just don't get a lot out of it, but I do love a good debate. I really actually have a lot of appreciation for the act of a debate, and like to watch a debate. I love anything that's psychologically challenging, mentally challenging, intellectually challenging. It's interesting. I think it's fun. As soon as it turns into like an argument and like identity politics and like, actual anger and hatred and malice, it's like, all right, this is like a little ridiculous. I think people take things way too seriously.
Yeah, man, gotta lighten up. Somebody comes at you with an argument. They're basically saying that you're an idiot or you don't know what you're talking about. But deep down, you're like, this is what I do all day, every day. I know I'm right. I know you're wrong. And you're yelling, which means you're wrong. You're just trying to get the volume up so people believe you.
Right.
You can stop them right in their tracks with just the thumbs up.
Totally. And like, I know the things that I'm willing to say I'm right about. It's like, hey, somebody wants to have a conversation about marketing, I'm here. But then if somebody tells me I'm wrong, it's like, okay. Like, I don't need to, I don't need to go out of the way.
I love that.
The thumbs up rule.
Because that's the temperament difference. It's a combination of things. It's intelligence, it's experience. You've done this a handful of times. You probably know it's not going to go anywhere good. You believe this. I'm not going to change the way you believe with my thoughts or theories or information. You're going to believe whatever you want to believe. I can make my case. You can make your case. But it's so funny that the smarter person is the one that's like, thumbs up. Hey, man, whatever you were going to say, you're right.
Exactly. Well, and not even just smarter. Hot take, right? I think people that have actually been through some shit don't take little disagreements and stuff all that serious, right? I think people who are easily flustered, easily offended and attacked and feel targeted by someone else's opinion or idea are people who haven't been through anything.
Yeah,
that's really, I think, like, when you've been through some shit and when you've been handed real adversity, and real fight or flight moments, or your life has been threatened and you really know what it's like to actually be in harm's way, you don't take discussions and arguments as personal attacks, because they're not.
Yeah.
And that you're not in danger, for the most part, in almost all cases. I think that's part of it too. It's being grounded and centered in yourself, and realizing that you're, confident in yourself is exactly. Yeah.
Thumbs up, Zen, Buddha hands. Keep it moving, bro.
Dude, it's Buddha Perry and Jungle Mike.
Yeah. Let's keep it breezy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, this video of somebody like peering out of their apartment of these people doing the donuts.
Yeah.
Have you seen another little neighbor window capture? I'll show you this. It is hilarious. I was like in tears watching this. This is in Richmond. This is a real video. This actually happened. Look at this woman. Oh, hang on. We're blocked out of Instagram. Okay, we're going to pull it up on the iPad. This is real.
Okay, I did see this. Okay.
So for those listening on audio,
incredible. This woman, there's a truck perpendicular on a street, and this woman is like army crawling, but like slippery army crawling from the street onto what is like, I guess the grass, or would be the grass area, over this sheet of ice to the doorway of this building. And she's like slipping while she's crawling. It is incredible.
I watched this like 20 times to try to figure out where this is and what this is. It almost looks like it looks like a patient first or something. I don't know what this building is. But yeah, she couldn't get to the front door, so she just lays down on the ice and just is army crawling to the front door.
Dude, this is so good.
Like,
and like this isn't an exaggeration, because like look how flat it is. Like it's an ice rink. And if she's not sure-footed, there's like no, obviously it wasn't broken up, so there's no like rough patches to grab onto. It's like she would stand up and she would just stand in place and slide back.
Totally.
Like that's what would happen.
Yeah, what cracks me up is her truck is parked on the curb with the door open.
So she just left that's her truck. She just left it in the middle of the street and was like, I got business to do. This ice ain't stopping me.
Dude, it's ridiculous. Well, you have this truck that's like in the middle of the street sideways, clearly stuck. Then you've got another truck parked with the door open, and it looks like that's the truck that she came out of. And yeah, she just gets out and army crawls and slides across the ground to try to get to this building, I guess.
Props to this woman.
Dude.
She means business and nothing is going to stop her.
That is commitment right there.
Yeah.
That's
what it's like.
Dude, we're making it to the big stage, dude, we're getting all the recognition that we deserve, because when you think of Richmond, we've got army tanks rolling down the road. We've got famous cats. We got drunk raccoons, and we got Wendy, army crawling across the ice to get into patient first, to be the hero of the day for whatever is happening here.
Incredible.
It is.
And I'm glad that person got it on video and put it on the internet.
Me too.
Big fan of that.
Me too.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of that in person. I've seen this gingerly like steppish walk where they're just taking teeny tiny steps. I've seen people straight up just looking down at their feet and trying to walk on the sidewalk. And I saw someone like almost eat shit in Carytown. They're walking along like normal clip, and they're walking by I guess it's like a Walgreens by Elwoods, and there's like a railing right there, and I'm passing them, and they walk by. Banana peel moment. Just foot comes out from under them. They catch themselves on the railing, and they're just like this, just hanging off the railing. It's gnarly out there.
That's crazy. Fortunately, I haven't seen anybody fall. I've seen a couple people maybe come close. I really haven't seen that many people in general.
That's true.
The only people I see are when I walk over to Sugar and Twine, and they're pretty much open for business, and there's a decent amount of people in there. Yeah. It's a pretty normal crowd.
It's like nothing happened over there. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. Saw, even the ice right here in front of the studio is like quite treacherous. So I've seen a couple people, doing a little shoe skating.
Yeah, little Michael Jackson. But speaking of shoe skating, I'm going to pull up a video here too. A friend of mine who I'll shout her out in the comments when we post this. I might need my fingerprint to get in there. But talking about shoe skating, that just reminds me, I saw her doing exactly that. It is top notch. Now, she's a comedian by trade. She teaches comedy at VCU.
Oh, nice.
So when she does something that's supposed to be funny on the internet, it usually hits pretty well.
Teaching comedy?
Yeah.
Dude,
she
teaches
improv
comedy.
and comedy at VCU.
Do you think that she would think we're funny?
I think she already thinks that we are funny, which is why she watches our podcast.
Score.
Yes. Did she take it down? No, she didn't. Here it is. She's got like the Olympic theme song playing in the background. And she's posing like she's getting ready to go on the ice skating rink. And she's in the middle of the street. What looks like it's Churchill or like Far East End. And she's got a commentator like an Olympic ice skating.
That is so funny.
And for the people that are just listening, she's got like boots on and like tight pants and like an American flag, like onesie top, like a figure skater. And she's like doing figure skating moves like on the ice on the street.
That is so funny.
It's incredible.
Dude, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10, all 10 across the board.
Yeah, all 10s from the judges.
Judges pick. She nailed it.
That's funny.
It's so good.
I love like clever ideas on social media.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big fan. It's easy to just do the regular old standard, whatever. But when you have a good idea and then you're like, I have to do that.
That's the best,
It's the
especially when you get out there and you kind of nail it. You're like, oh, yeah, I know I nailed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a proud moment when you can look at your work and like, oh, I did that. I
Yes.
created something that people like.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Staying on the theme of skating, we have to say a goodbye to the 10,000-foot wiener in James City County.
Okay. Hit me. What is this?
So there's a skate park in James City County, and it's, if you look at it from satellite imagery, it's basically like the big outline of male genitalia, balls and wiener.
So if you're looking at it from the satellite, it looks like a
One of those, yeah.
twig and giggleberries.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess they opened the park in the year 2000 or 2001. It was a fan favorite. Everybody loved it for its shred and stokeability. And
Never been described as such, by the way, but
it has now, dude.
one day.
Hey, it's this podcast is here for a lot of firsts. And yeah, so I saved this as the Wiener Skate Park. And when you zoom in, here you go, dude. This is what you get.
Wow.
Look at that.
Wow. How did they not know that? Yeah, somebody knew that.
Must have been, yeah.
They had to draw it out in plans.
Clever little, skate park architect.
Yeah.
You
I wouldn't even put it past the designer of it. Is that the guy that designed it?
Maybe, I don't know.
The designer of a skate park to make it shaped like a wiener.
Yeah. Well, here we are 25 years later, and they've deemed it inappropriate. They're going to take it down.
It's only inappropriate if you look at it from space.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But so imagine that covered in ice right now. An icy wiener skate park.
Skate park.
People be flying on that thing.
They just say, look, take the wheels off your skateboard, turn it into a snowboard, and you can boogie.
Yeah. Jesus, take the wheel. Well, it's probably worth mentioning that today's episode is sponsored by us.
That's true.
Yeah. Vera House Studios.
Vera House Studios, Carytown, Richmond, Virginia, circa established 2025 LLC, doing business as Vera House Studios.
Exactly.
Open hours to be determined. Occupancy 2. I'm just thinking of other ways to describe the place.
Yeah. Occupancy 2 at the moment.
Yes.
It's me and you, dude.
That's right.
But adjacent to us is a whole nother studio. The room that we're sitting in, if you're watching on video, can fit up to 3 people. This space is available to use if you're a local brand, you're a local business, if you have needs for podcasting or podcast services or talking head videos and content. I think we can all agree that it's the number one way to create good, authentic, high-performing content.
Mm-hmm.
And it's truly what we built this place for. And this podcast that you're listening to is our way of walking the walk and talking the talk and showing that this format works and that it can be enjoyable and fun, because content for most people and brands and businesses is like a very frustrating experience. So
yeah, man.
this is meant to make that easier. We have another studio next door that can fit even more people, different design, different furniture, different set. We have all professional cameras, lighting, audio equipment. And Perry and I serve as pretty good coaches, I would say. And we've had some really great clients so far. We would love to invite you to come check out the studio. If you're someone who feels like you could utilize these services or even just want to explore ideas, please reach out, DM us. You can contact us through verahouse.co.
So I want to be careful talking about this. My pun, the way that I was going to introduce this bit, starts with ice, but not the ice that's on the ground, the ice that's looming in the conversations in dark alleys. We tend to not want to veer into the murky waters of politics and what's going on with the government and all that stuff. We're all good vibes, positivity, and, some funny stories around these parts. But I did find something funny and interesting that involves a little bit of that. So you may not know this, but have you heard about the nurse that got fired from VCU for telling people how to spike ice agents with anesthetics?
Whoa. No, I have not heard about that.
So it's not a long story. There was a nurse. She formerly worked at VCU, and she posted videos on TikTok. And I watched a couple of the videos. She posted videos on TikTok basically saying, and kind of in a joking way, saying that, healthcare professionals or nurses, if you get ice agents as patients, maybe just grab a syringe of saline and just have it on you. Or maybe if you're out in the wild and you come across some ice agents, just get some poison ivy. Just grind that up, put it in a bottle of water and give it to them. They'll have a really shitty day after that. And the videos were, I think, intended to be funny. They're not intended to be like, oh, we should like murder these people. But she got fired. Yeah. Well, first she got suspended and then she got fired. In the videos, the nurse reportedly talked about different ways to target immigration and customs enforcement agents. She reportedly suggested medical providers carrying syringes with anesthetics in them to cause short-acting muscle paralysis and ice agents. She also reportedly suggested putting poison ivy in a squirt gun to aim it at the ice agents. Among other things, she called sabotage tactics. The nurse reportedly said her ideas were not meant to kill or seriously harm anyone, but she wanted to make their lives miserable. I thought that was funny, just the way that she like didn't have any F's left to give, and she went straight to TikTok and was like, "Hey guys, I'm feeling a little spicy today. If you're feeling spicy, grind up some poison ivy and put it in a water bottle and hand it to a random stranger on the street, just in case they're ice agents." It's wild.
Couple things. Yeah. The idea is definitely meant to kill someone. Her intent may have not been for anybody to be killed, right? But the idea is like clearly, I mean, maybe not the poison ivy thing, but yeah, I don't think you can inject somebody with saline into their bloodstream. That's not good.
That's rough, man.
But she should have known not to post it on TikTok because TikTok is the most censored platform now. Yeah. TikTok used to be the place where you could go and like say all your deep, dark secrets about all the crazy shit you think. And now it's the opposite. Now you can't do that on TikTok. TikTok's like the most regulated, censored thing now. We won't get into why all that is, but
look it up.
Isn't it crazy? Look it up, dude. But the crazy thing is like, remember like in the MySpace days and even before that, like your real life was your real life. And then like the internet was just like this other obscure thing. So like if you said something on the internet, it was kind of like, yeah, but that's not me. That's like the internet,
yeah,
right?
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
No one was paying attention.
And now it's like the opposite. Like real life is on the internet now. We're all a bunch of like dystopian little like internet microchip robots, right? We're walking around with like Palantir chips in our brain and, whatever. They're putting like microchips in the food and whatever's going on. You got to
stick your head into the kiosk to buy groceries.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, scan your eyeball to purchase whatever, and so it's like real life is the internet and like or the opposite. The internet is real life. And then your real life is like fake life. Yeah. So now it's like you have to pay attention to what you say on the internet And then what you say in real life is like, oh, well, that's fine. You just say that behind closed doors or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, so she's doing it backwards.
She should have just whispered this in dark alleys.
Yeah, she should have held like a, you know, an HOA meeting and said, hey, here's a bunch of syringes full of, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, don't go on TikTok and do it. What were you thinking?
That's what we say, crazy work.
Yeah,
that's crazy work.
Yeah.
Like going on the internet and like no discreet. She wasn't discreet at all. It's just her face as big as the phone screen, like whispering at you, going out of her way to be like, yeah, take a syringe to work.
Yeah.
Maybe stab somebody in the butt with it. You know, if you're feeling frosty.
Now, but what was her occupation? What's her job though?
She was a nurse.
Yeah. See, I feel like that's where you cross a line. It's like, yeah, whether or not it was the right or wrong message, it's the wrong messenger.
You're a healthcare provider. Your
Yeah.
job is to make sure that people are healthy. And I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to med school, but isn't there something in like the Hippocratic Oath that you should treat no matter? You should treat any patient no matter who they are, where they come from, or what they've done. To that degree.
Yeah. Like imagine if it was like a kickboxer and a kickboxer said, all right, here's a tutorial on how to kick ice agents in the shin correctly, right? Everyone would be like, wow, that's hilarious, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, not your local healthcare professional saying, here's how to administer drugs into an ice agent's neck. Like
You're scrolling on TikTok and like, wait a minute, she just took my blood a couple days ago.
Right, yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah. You know, but look, the thought police are out there and they're going to get you for your thoughts.
Yeah.
You know,
nothing is secret anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you tell stories on the internet that make you look like somebody that you're not, and then in real life, you're just a completely different person. That's the hack. You just live your life however you want, and then you put whatever crazy stuff you want people to believe about you on TikTok.
Yeah, or like at that point, you just got to triple down on it and go super crazy. Right?
Yeah.
You just got to be like, all right, well, this is my life now. I'm like the crazy TikTok lady that said this stupid thing and blew my whole life up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like it goes, you know, it's pretty clear, like probably shouldn't be giving tutorials on how to kill people on the internet. You know, it's like that's kind of stupid and probably frowned upon.
Yeah, frowned upon.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Let the government do that in their secret programs, you know, and they don't go posting it on the internet, you know?
No, I mean, they do. They just call it, what do we call him? Jim Carolina? Carolina Jim?
Oh, yeah, Carolina Bill.
Carolina Bill.
Yeah.
That's the government posting on the internet. Carolina Bill is because it wasn't anyone's face. It was just a hand. So he was an agent from the CIA, an operative with like a fake North Carolina accent talking about chemtrails.
Yeah.
So he's planting the mind seed, which is going to bloom into a mind plant. And then you have Dr. made up, what's his name, MD from University of Nowhere, saying it's not chemtrails, it's an igloo, moron.
Yep. They do that, dude.
Yeah.
They do that. Look it up. Operation Mockingbird. They're on the news. They're out there, dude. These are, you know, they're plants. They're everywhere. That's why you got to look out and think for yourself.
So do you know when Richmond started being referred to as RVA?
I mean, as far back as I can remember, but no.
I didn't know either. I like had to look it up. I was curious about it one day and I was, you know, I was like, I think I remember like 2012-ish when the big RVA sign.
Like the bumper sticker or something?
The bumper stickers. There was a big one downtown. Like there was one on Browns Island, I think. Just like the RVA logo, the branded RVA logo. But like, I remember calling it RVA pretty, like for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then it made me think, well, when did we start calling Richmond RVA? Like, when did that really start? Turns out a long time ago.
Really?
While looking into this, there was a radio station, WRVA, and it used to just stand for Richmond, Virginia. WRVA goes back to 1925.
Wow.
And it used to only stand for Richmond, Virginia, but throughout the decades, it evolved to RIC. It used to be called, Richmond was called RIC. It wasn't called RVA until the early 2000s. And we can credit the punk and hardcore scene to that.
Yeah.
Punk bands, like there's one that's referenced Punks, PUNX, used to put the abbreviation for Richmond RVA on their flyers in like the late 90s.
Nice.
And 2000s. And that became a thing in the underground punk rock and hardcore scene. So shout out to the punks and the hardcore kids for really putting that on the map. It wasn't until 2012 that like the Martin Agency, Venture Richmond, and other like the Brand Center collaborated on the RVA logo. And then they eventually made it public domain so you can use it on whatever. It's free to use, free to license. You can make stickers, you can make flyers, you can make hats out of it. That wasn't until like 2012, but I thought that was pretty cool that I don't know how long ago was 1925 that
100 years, 101
that's
years.
when RVA quote unquote started.
That is cool, man. And dude, the punk kids, man, always the trendsetters, That's me, dude. I'm part of that crew, okay? And you know what? PBRs and vans and steel framed fixed gear bicycles. That was it, dude. I remember bouncing around alley cats, and it was RVA,
So I'm like, since we're talking about the punk scene, what is punk?
Yeah.
What is punk in Richmond? What does being a Richmond punk mean?
It's a good question. I mean, punk music really started in like the 70s, maybe, there like punk has evolved quite a bit. Like even back in the day, people considered like the Beatles almost like punk music.
Yeah,
They
like
considered
punk rock.
Yeah, they considered them like these rebels, and almost looked at them as like punk music. But I think punk, really started to take off in the 80s, especially the late 80s. And I always think of like my older cousins because when I was a kid, like they were kind of like young punks, mohawks, skateboards, tattoos, punk music, all that good stuff. And I mean, a lot of it is that sort of like anti-authority, socially rejected kind of feeling, It's like, I don't fit in. I don't fit with the mainstream. I don't, you can't put me in a box, whatever. And I think a lot of it comes from that mentality. And then it's evolved over the years. And now you have so many different types of music that have evolved from sort of like that kind of stance, A lot of really great early punk bands. And I got into it because as I got older as a kid, I got all my hand-me-downs from my older cousins, so like their clothes and their CDs and music and even like their toys and stuff. Like, I remember having like a little He-Man rubber action figure and I didn't even know what He-Man was, but like my older cousins, of course, did. I even remember like, getting some 8-track tapes from them. And I think that's like a big part of it. I mean, Richmond punk, I don't know, man. I think the qualifier is having a sticky rice tattoo on your body somewhere.
It's definitely having a sticky rice tattoo like on your left butt cheek.
Yeah.
Like you have to take your pants off to show it to people.
Yeah.
That's the ticket to entry.
Yeah.
You have to go to Lost Bowl.
Yep.
You have to hang out there. You got to go to shows.
Yep.
You have to know where the shows are, and you have to ride in the back of a pickup truck with a case of Natty, case of PBR, and run from the cops when they show up at the party.
Yeah. You got to wear 2 belts.
Yeah.
And you had to have gotten beat up in the alleyway on 17th and 17th Street near the farmer's market when you could still drive through there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to have been invited to the street fights behind Bodilla's, which is now like a VCU office building.
Yeah.
On Broad Street. So like the Carver area. You didn't have to fight, but you had to get invited.
Yeah.
You had to go to Helen's before Helen's was the place where all the VCU students go to party. That's where you used to go to hang out. And you had to go to, is it Element? What was the punk bar on the corner of Broad and Harrison?
Oh, dude, I do think that was called Element.
Was it Element?
Yeah.
It was a punk bar.
Or Empire.
Empire.
That
yes,
was it.
You had to go to Empire.
Oh, man, I'm so glad I saved that because, Empire. Yep, I remember that.
This is before I knew what like punk rock was, the punk scene was. I was just like, what?
I would have been so disappointed listening back to that and be like, dude, it's not Element, it's Empire.
Yeah, shout out Empire.
I do remember that. Yeah. Man, all kinds of stuff like Hold It Down tattoo. I'm pretty sure that's still around.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff, man. Like all the Straight Edge Crews and Gorilla Crew and like all this different stuff. I actually found a picture from like what was originally going to be like the Final Conditions show, which was like 2014 or something. I found some pictures from that not too long ago. Yeah. But Yeah, who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah, it's still there. There's still elements of it. I know that when I think about what's going on with the city's transformation and like the growth and the expansion and all the new residents, this is the punk scene. It feels like that's what people are up in arms about when they say that the Richmond's identity is getting erased. Like Strange Matter being like the big standout example, right? It was the joint. It was the dope venue. It was a shithole, but it was a dope venue. And they closed it. It turned into this place called Bagel Czar, which was, I don't even know, it was a hookah bar, I think. And then it's still sitting there as Strange Matter, as like as an eyesore, but also a reminder to what used to go on in the city. And it's like, yeah, there's still some punk shows that still happen. There's still some house shows that happen, but not nearly as many as there used to be.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not playing shows at the Camel like they used to. And, you know, a lot of the people that were in the scene are grown up and have kids now. So they're not fighting in the 18th Street marketplace. They're taking their kids to daycare and getting food from Elwood's.
Yeah.
It's just how things go.
I am also like often fascinated by how the generations change, you know? And it does. It's like you can't really verbalize or explain it because it's like a feeling. It's not even like a time or a place. It's like a feeling, you know? And going to these like house shows and stuff, it's not that they don't exist. It's just that it's not the same.
It's really not.
You know? And it's like you could go to the same place and it could have like sort of the same vibe, but you're sitting there as like a different person. And you're like, this doesn't feel how it used to, you know?
Doesn't have that special sauce.
Yeah. But there's VCU kids right now that are having their own version of that same experience, you know?
That's true.
And they are, you know, crashing on some dude's basement on a beer-soaked, you know, rug somewhere, and they're waking up and they're like, dude, that was awesome. And then, yeah, they're going to be sitting here in this studio after they take it over talking about whatever weird experiences they had.
So in a way, it's not that the punks outgrow the scene. They grow up and they have to do grown-up stuff. Being a punk is a human condition, and you grow into the age where being a punk makes sense, and you gravitate to it, or you don't, or you go whatever way you go, and then you participate in it, and you take it whichever way it takes you. You ride that ride for as long as you can, or you feel like you want to, and then maybe you shift lanes. You go somewhere else. You do, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So maybe punk rock, anti-establishment, anti-conformity, the opposite of the norm, is just a human condition because it seems to repeat itself every generation.
Yeah. And being a punk means that in high school, you were like the little dumb reject kid that nobody liked. You never got the hot girls, and the girls that did like you were, you know, kind of the what do you call it? The swoop. Swoop. Like they were cute, you know, but they weren't like the hottest girl. The swoop, dude. The swoop.
Side part?
Yeah, the emo swoosh.
Oh, yeah. And yeah.
You know, dude, I had my emo swoosh days.
Emo swoosh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, and you're always looking at like the cool kids and you're like, "Oh man, they're so tan and like their feet are so pretty and like
tan.
They're cool and they're like captain of the football team and the hot cheerleaders." But dude, just give it 10 years. Just hang in there because those end up being all the ugly, miserable people and the punks end up being the cool ones. Yeah. And then they start bands. Then they end up becoming Travis Barker and they marry a Kardashian.
There you go.
And that's what being a punk is about.
I love it. The punk story arc is the real life's journey.
That's it, dude. Yeah. So, you know, it starts rough, but you just got to hang in there,
you got to stick in there,
better,
man.
You know?
It gets better. The acne goes away most of the time. You do grow into your head so you don't look like a light bulb for the rest of your life. Your body eventually fills out. You will be taller than the friend that always made fun of you for being the shortest one. I promise.
Dude, you'll grow into your head and you won't look like a light bulb for the rest of your life.
Yeah, dog. I had light bulb syndrome. I had the giant head, big mouth, full of teeth, and like a skinny neck and like a scrawny body.
Oh, that's so funny,
yes.
Dude. Yeah. Look forward to the future. You could look like this, whatever this
whatever
is.
that is. I don't know, man. I'm here for it. This podcast was recorded at Vera House Studios in Richmond, Virginia, and produced by Perry Young and Mike Metzger.